I've been writing a musical for the last 6 years. That's why there hasn't been a new record. And we finally found a home for it to start workshopping it, which is like, this is the point at which most musicals die. But we found somebody interested in spending the money. You have to have singers, you have to have musicians, and they got to get paid. And it's like we found somebody to do that. Daisy Foote, his father was Horton Foote, and I've been working on a musical of Tender Mercies for the last 6 years. And great movie that came out in the 80s. And Robert Duvall's, only Best Acting Oscar, and Horton won Best Original Screenplay for it. And it's so all the songwriting I've been doing has been going into that project. But now we found a home for it. It sort of left my hands free for a moment. Back in the late winter and early spring, and I started writing some other songs. It may turn out to be an album, I don't know yet. I do know that there's a new single out that came out 3 days ago. And I started looking around for something to write, and it was like Guy used to say about sometimes it writes you. And I'm just, I live in New York City, and I get a pretty, interesting view of this whole immigration thing that everybody's always talking about from there, because, it's like that's kind of where this country was born, in this kind of big bang of people coming in from all over the world there, and it still happens. And but I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and I had this sort of different view of it that was a little more focused and a little more singular. The only thing I ever did besides this was frame houses, and there was no real future in it for me because I fell off of houses a lot, and no, I couldn't walk plates worth a damn. But I did do it for a few years, and somehow managed to not get hurt badly. I dropped out of school in 1971. Minimum wage was $1.60 an hour, and the most I ever made was $2 1/4. And the crews that I worked on were all guys that looked like me, and they worked till 7 o'clock in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon with a half-hour break. And it was all, guys that looked like me that were, except most of us had long hair and kind of a skunk stripe down our backs where we had our hair back in ponytails and worked with no shirts on. And it was, I thought that's the way houses were built, and everywhere in the world. Then I was on one crew that the foreman's name was Cruz Allende, and he was the best framing carpenter I ever saw. I learned a lot. I mean, I didn't have great balance, but I can read a California Rafter book in a Swanson square. I learned how to run roof lines, and I learned all that from him. And it was, just one day we show up for work, and Cruz is the only one there, and things feel a little bit weird. And I'm 17 years old. Keep that in mind. And I'm like, the Cruz says, guys, Ed, the contractor on this, he went belly up, and we're, but my cousin's going to take this over. And those other guys who were a little older than me, they all started rolling their stuff up and putting it in their cars. And I'm like, hey, he said we still got our jobs. And they're like, hey, man, you can't work with Mexicans. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And they work too hard. And it was true, they worked their asses off. I'd never seen anything like it. And not only did they work really hard, but they didn't quit at 3:30 in the afternoon. They worked can't see to can't see. Cruz would tell you, his cousin took it over. Cruz was still my foreman. And he would say, he decided the San Antonio the Channel 5 News was the ultimate authority. He said, watch Channel 5 News. Whenever it says the sun's coming up, show up an hour and a half after that. And so that's what we did. And then we worked until Cruz decided that he couldn't see anymore. And then we'd roll up and go. So it would be 55 hours a week sometimes, 50, at least 50. And if he was close to a draw, we would string lights and work late on Friday night to make that draw. And it was just a different way to think about making a living. Oh, another big difference was the first day at lunch, they call lunch, and I get out my bologna sandwich and a bag of Cheetos or some shit. And here comes Cruz's wife, and she's got 2 wide-mouth thermoses full of carne asada and a stack of homemade flour tortillas she just made. And those guys start making tacos, and I'm looking at that sandwich and looking at those tacos, and looking at that sandwich, and Cruz with a whole mouthful of carne asada says, you know, you don't have to eat that shit. And from that point on, they took $5 out of my check, and I got tacos too. So, but it was just a different way of thinking about making a living is what it was. It wasn't anybody trying to hurt anybody. It was like some of the guys had come up from Mexico. They were younger than me even, and they'd work a few weeks, and they'd get some money, and they'd go back. Some of the guys came and stayed and learned the trades and learned, to be lead men and eventually contractors. And those guys nearly all became citizens eventually. And I did this for about 3 years and got to see it from that side of it. And I also got to see $100 in one place for the first time in my life, because at $1.60 an hour up to $2, you never broke over $85 or $90 on a check after taxes. So I thought I was rich. And look, when you're 17, I didn't care, about working hard that much. And I also, as far as I knew, nothing cool happened until it got dark. So I was perfectly okay with working the extra hours. And I just, I find myself recently wondering where those guys that I worked with are. And it's just, and what they think about what's going on these days. So I wrote this song, and I knew how I wanted to record it, and I called Steve Berlin, because Los Lobos were in Italy at the time. We've been friends since we both started making records, and we had this connection that had to do with music that comes from San Antonio, where I come from, because when they got into traditional Mexican music, it was a lot of stuff that came from that part of Texas and that part of Mexico. And but we got together in a recording studio in Richmond, Virginia a few weeks ago. And it was easier to get them to go to a recording studio when they were on the road than to get them out of their own fucking houses when they're home in LA. And we recorded this. It's called Volver, Celaya. And it's a new single, Ciro Los Lobos. It's out on New West Records as of this week. I was born in the city of Celaya, deep in the heartland of Mexico. There's work to be had in the monkey doors, but I was young and I had to go. There must have been troubles and trials. I only remember the river was low. The other side I caught her riding off to San Antonio. Had a cousin of mine on a carpenter crew. He lied to his boss and he put me on. I hadn't a clue what to do and he knew, but I caught on. In the swing of a hammer, a lifetime flew by. I raised a family, but now I'm alone. Voy volver a Celaya, I'm going back home. Crew before I turned 20. I began building a life brick by brick. I did alright and the contractor sponsored me, and I got my citizenship. Married fair Graciela, his daughter. Soon there were children, but now they're all grown. 2 of our boys went to fight in Afghanistan. One of them didn't come home. They were raised to believe in this country that I barely recognize now. The Negro come masked in the night without warning. The children scream when they knock the doors down. The angels took my Graciela. There's nothing left here for me now that she's gone. Voy volver a Celaya, I'm going back home.
going back home.